follow the unifying voice of Murdo Fraser. Can I say at the start of this process of the... And just for the record, I don't want to give the powers back to the EU. Right from the start of this process about the withdrawal bill, Presiding Officer, the Conservatives have been asking privately and publicly whether the SNP ministers wanted a deal. There's never been any doubt in my mind whatsoever that the SNP ministers have acted in good faith and have tried everything to get a reasonable deal for Scotland. I think the question is, do the Tory ministers at Westminster actually want a deal? I think when Damien Green was there, I was fairly confident the answer to that question was yes. And although his successor, David Livington, who masterminds the Tory negotiations in this matter, is a very nice man, I've met him, I will in a minute, he nevertheless doesn't, I think, understand devolution or understand Scotland. And in particular, the thing that the Tories have never got to grasp with is that although the United Kingdom is one state, we are 4 nations. And therefore, Northern Ireland decides what's right for Northern Ireland. Wales decides rightly what's right for Wales. Scotland decides what's right for Scotland, and ministers in London decide what's right for England. I will now take the intervention.
And can I say to Ms Davison, please don't just remain standing the whole time waiting for your intervention.
I wasn't quite sure how long he was going to be finishing up, so my apologies.
None of us are, but well, never mind, Ms Davison, on you go.
I understand the concern. I'd like to thank the member for taking this intervention, and he asked if we were sure that the UK government wanted a deal, and I would like to say that yes, we are. That's why they did a deal with the Welsh government. It's also why they amended the deal that was on the table, re-amended the deal that was on the table, and how much movement did his government have in this process?
Alec Neil.
Well, I'm sure the member will listen intently. I'm about to explain to her why what's on the table is unacceptable. And it's unacceptable for two fundamental reasons. Despite what Murdo Fraser and Adam Tompkins say about these 24 powers coming back from Brussels to the UK, under the 1998 Scotland Act, it's very clear these 24 powers are devolved responsibilities and not part of the reserved list in Schedule 5 of that Act. And as devolved responsibilities, like all the other powers, they should come back directly to this Parliament, not to this Parliament via a number 9 bus at Westminster. That's our responsibility to manage and run these 24 devolved responsibilities. And let me also say 2 other points which are important, I think, to put in the record. The first one is that these 24 powers, when you look at them, matter. They matter to Scotland. The equivalent powers matter to England. They matter in Wales and they matter in Northern Ireland. So we're not dancing on the head of a pin. We're talking about powers that could have a real impact, depending on how they're used, in the economy of the entire United Kingdom or any part of the United Kingdom. I will in a minute. The second point that has to be recorded is that we all have a common objective. We all agree on the need for common standards in certain matters over the entire United Kingdom. That's not the issue. The issue is, how do you agree? What is the process for agreeing what those common standards should be? I will now take Mr Mundell.
Oliver Mundell.
The member appears to make a pretty compelling case for those common frameworks, and I'm interested in why he feels that this deal doesn't deliver that.
Alec Neil.
I'm just about to explain. The first reason is these are devolved responsibilities, and if they're going to be taken by Westminster, it should be with our agreement per all the previous legislative requirements that have gone before the withdrawal bill. But the second point is this, and this is a very important point. When you look at the role of UK ministers in London, they have 2 heads ministerially. They have a United Kingdom head for non-devolved matters and they have an English head to cover the English responsibility for England in devolved responsibilities. And what we have in offer is that these ministers, in effect, will be the final arbiter of what happens with these 24 powers. Now, they cannot be, as they represent England, they cannot be described as fair or neutral arbiters. What we need is a fair and neutral arbiter where there is a dispute. And there might not be that many disputes at the end of the day. And the current provision, where we can make a formal presentation to the House of Commons, is totally inadequate. No, I need to finish this point, because the arithmetic of the House of Commons, where 85% of the members represent constituencies in England, you can't expect a legislator in the House of Commons representing an English constituency to vote against, no matter how reasonable our case, they're not going to vote against their own self-interest. So what is required to break this impasse is agreement that there needs to be some genuinely neutral arbiter when and if there is a dispute. Maybe some committee chaired by somebody who's agreeable to all four administrations. But you cannot really reasonably either describe these two-headed ministers in London or the House of Commons as an uninterested party, as a neutral arbiter, as somebody who doesn't have a vested interest in a particular point of view. And that is a fundamental weakness of these proposals. So there is a way through this. There is a way through this. We all want a way through this. It doesn't do anybody any good to have a fight that's avoidable. This fight is avoidable, but reason must reign in London. And at the moment, that is not the case. And to say to the Scottish people, we're going to ignore the 1998 Act, both in spirit and in the letter, by changing it so that we don't require the express approval of this Parliament for what happens in Scotland, that, quite frankly, is treating the people with a total lack of respect and treating this Parliament with a total lack of respect. So I say to the Tory benches, and I know some of you privately probably have a lot of sympathy with what everyone else is saying, and make no mistake about it, the Labour benches and the Liberal benches are genuine devolutionists. They fought hard with the Tory party to try to stop independence from happening in 2014. These benches are clearly in favour of independence. But when you've got people who are genuine devolutionists, who will fight tooth and nail against independence, uniting with us on this matter, there is a loud and clear message to the Tory government in London, and that is that it's high time that you not only saw reason, but you actually made an effort to implement it as well.
Thank you.